Assalamualaikum. This is Dr. Tehmeena Jahangir, Associate Professor of Ophthalmology at Lahore General Hospital. And today I'll be taking you through the pathways of vision. Now, as we all know that the visual uh, pathways, uh, first the light enters the eye through the cornea, is refracted through the cornea, the lens, and travels through the vitreous cavity to reach the inner coat of the eye, where there are lots of photoreceptors. These photoreceptors are of two types. They are known as the rods and the cones. Now, the visual pathway begins with the photoreceptors in the retina and ends in the visual cortex of the occipital lobe. The photoreceptors are located here at the back in the retina, and these are the visual pathways which we will be discussing today. And from here on, the end point is the visual cortex in the occipital lobe. Right? I'm trying to go full screen. Okay. So the visual system is specialized to take visual information, which are essentially photons from the light, and compose them into a coherent picture of the world. The visual pathway, as we have just discussed, begins in the eye. Now, as you can see, this is an overall view of the visual pathways, which is beginning in which eventually gives us a binocular field of view, and it Okay, so let us examine the axons leaving the eye through the optic nerve. Now, where the optic nerve leaves the eye, that region is known as the optic disc. As you are well aware, you've studied in physiology also, that the fibers from the nasal halves of both retinas, they cross in the optic chiasma and travel to the opposite side, whereas the fibers from the temporal retina remain uncrossed in the optic chiasm and remain on the same side of the eye, same side of the visual system. After after the optic nerve, the fibers cross in the optic chiasm. The fibers are no longer known as the optic nerve. They are known as the optic tracts of both sides, respectively, the right and left optic tract. Now, this is a very, very important picture, which shows you that the information from the right visual field, which is depicted in orange, right visual field, not just the right eye. This is the right visual field of the right eye, and this is the right visual field of the left eye. Now, this information is carried in the left optic tract. As you can see, this is orange. Orange is representing the right visual field of both eyes, whereas information from the left visual field, which is depicted in blue, is carried in the right optic tract throughout. Crossing only occurs at the chiasma. After that, no crossing occurs. Now, once the fibers are in the optic tract, they travel in the optic tract and land at the lateral geniculate nucleus of both sides. This is also known as the visual part of the thalamus. We will be discussing about the lateral geniculate nucleus in detail in a bit. So, just to recapitulate, the fibers from the retina, the axons of from the retina travel in the optic nerve, and here from the optic nerve of both sides they reach the optic chiasma, where crossing of the nasal fibers takes place, and the ipsilateral temporal and contralateral nasal fibers travel in the optic tract to reach the lateral geniculate nucleus on both sides. From there on, majority of the fibers continue as the optic radiations, which we will discuss later, but some of them from the lateral geniculate nucleus, they project onto the superior colliculi. These are the superior colliculi here. These superior colliculi are paired structures located on the roof of the midbrain. They help coordinate rapid movements of the eyes towards a target. Some fibers also project to the pretectum. I will tell you what that is. These are the rest of the fibers, majority of the fibers travel back towards the occipital lobes in optic radiations, whereas the fibers which are whereas some of them project to the superior colliculi and the pretectum. These are involved in the pupillary light reflexes. Now, the pretectum is basically, this is the thalamus, these are the superior colliculi, this is a cross section of the brain, and this is the region known as the pretectum. So this is a collection of neurons that lies between the thalamus and midbrain, and that is the pretectum. It acts as an important coordinating center for the pupillary light reflexes. Now this is the lateral geniculate nucleus. This is the lateral geniculate nucleus. It is made up of actually 6 layers. You are not required to know the details of the layers. However, it is important to know that the lateral genicular nucleus is the primary relay center for visual processing by the cerebral cortex. So this is the lateral geniculate nucleus. Okay. You are not required again to know the layers. However, just for your information, it is composed of 6 layers, and there are 3 types of cells which are involved in visual processing. Now the right lateral geniculate nucleus, which is here, receives information from the left visual field. This is the left visual field depicted in orange, which is constituted by the nasal left retina, which is this one, and the temporal right retina, which is this one. This information from these areas, from the left visual field, reaches the right lateral genicular nucleus. Okay, this is the information or the visual field depicted in orange, whereas the right visual field is relayed onto the left lateral genicular nucleus, which receives information from the nasal right retina, this, and the temporal left retina here, the green part. Now we've discussed that fibers from the lateral genicular nucleus, they project onto they travel backwards as optic radiation towards the occipital lobes of both eyes. This is the lateral geniculate nucleus. Fibers from the axons carrying information about the superior portion of the visual field sweep around the lateral wall of the ventricle, which is known as the Meyer's loop, in the temporal lobe, before reaching the occipital lobe, whereas axons carrying information about the inferior portion of the visual fields travel in the parietal lobe. Okay. It is important to remember that topographic orientation of the visual field is maintained throughout the visual pathways, and the fovea, which is 0.01% of the retinal area, actually is represented on 8 to 10% of the cortical map area. So fovea has a huge representation on the occipital cortex. Inputs from both eyes converge at the cortical level, making binocular effects possible. Visual pathways. The primary visual cortex is also known as B1 or Brodmann's area 17. It is also known as striate cortex because it appears striped when labeled with some dyes. Primary visual cortex also projects to other areas of the cerebral cortex referred to extrastriate. These areas are involved in complex visual perception. Now, this is the primary visual cortex, area 17, and it occupies the upper and lower lobes of the calcarine sulcus on the medial surface of the cerebral hemispheres. Visual association areas are as visual association cortex is an extensive area which includes the whole of the occipital lobe and the adjacent part of the parietal lobe. This cortex is involved now visual association cortex is involved in interpretation and recognition of objects, perception of color, depth, motion, and other aspects of vision. Okay, now I'd like you to see a small video which is very useful in explaining the various portions of the visual pathways. I don't know whether you can hear this sound.
Back to Sussman Breakup. In this video, I'll be taking you through the visual pathway. So let's start by having a look at the cross-section of the human eye. As light passes through the eye, it first reaches the cornea.
This is the
cornea is the transparent cover.
This is just showing you. This is just recapitulating that light enters the eye through the cornea, travels through the lens, and
the inner coat of the eye that contains lots of photoreceptors known as rods and cones. The cornea and the lens focuses the light onto the back of the retina, which creates the visual image on the retina. The visual image is inverted from top to bottom and reversed from left.
Okay, so the image which enters the eye is not only upside down, but it is also laterally reversed, as you can see by this arc. This is showing you the visual field and the corresponding retinal field. Right? So it is once again upside down and left side right. This is a fundus photograph, and this is the fovea, the macular area, which has a huge representation on the occipital lobe. I wish I could hear the sound. This is the optic disc. This is where the axons of the retinal ganglion cells leave the eyeball to form the optic nerve. Now these are the two optic nerves. This is the chiasma, right, where the crossing of the fibers takes place. After the optic chiasma, the fibers are known as the optic tract. Through the optic tract, they reach the lateral geniculate nucleus. From the lateral geniculate nucleus, the fibers form the optic radiations. Right? This is again the same thing which I discussed about the crossing of the nasal fibers, whereas the temporal fibers remain on the same side.
This is important when it comes to lesions, such as a pituitary tumor. If we were to have a patient who had a large pituitary tumor, which is found just inferior to the optic horizon, This will compress the optic pattern, and more specifically, the neurons that have originated from the nasal retinal fields, which carry visual information from the temporal visual fields. So therefore, in a patient who has a large pituitary tumour, the individual will lose vision in their temporal visual fields. This is known as bitemporal or bilateral enveloping. Here we can demonstrate this by drawing a black line cutting through the neurons that carry visual information from the nasal retinal fields. So the lateral geniculate nuclei are the primary relay nuclei of visual processing. So now let's look more specifically at the left lateral geniculate nucleus. The left lateral geniculate nucleus will receive temporal retinal infield information from the left line, which is demonstrated.
Once
Green line,
the
and does not decussate the optic pattern. Also,
okay, this is
in
showing
the
you again
this
the
contains
optic radiations. This is the Myers loop. These fibers are traveling to the parietal lobe, and they eventually reach the calcarine sulcus. This is the calcarine fissure on the medial aspect, and around this is the primary visual cortex.
It is also good to know that topography, this involves projections to the parietal lobe.
Right? Then there are the secondary association areas which are involved in higher visual processing.
Condition whereby the individual can't see moving things and effectively sees moving as a series of photos. This condition is called achinopsia. We then have another system. This is the temporal strip, also known as the visual
So I think we will stop here for today, and we will discuss all the defects in the visual field defects in the next lecture. Thank you.